I don't think so.
Take a seat. We would be honored if you would join us.
Is Star Wars After Party okay? Is it safe? We're good. We didn't forget about all y'all. Maybe we're just a little busy with the holiday season. Do you understand? Can you understand? I think you can. We're ready to talk Skeleton Crew. I'm excited. This show's been great. Again, I feel like I had high hopes, but I wasn't expecting this. It's even better than I thought it would be. I can't wait to talk all about it. Tyler Bodkins. Been in this fight since I was 8 years old. And with me, he can't say he remembers no At-Atten. It's Cameron Porter.
You stole my line. The first words out of my mouth were going to be, can't say I remember no Tyler Bodkins.
Oh, well, I apologize. Apologies. Yes, I had to really search my memory banks for how to podcast about Star Wars again. You know, it's not often we take a week off, especially with a show airing, but you just
got to run memory override.
Oh, so. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So I did that. I started smoking, and then I started like chasing these kids, and like I was going to kill them. I don't know. It was weird. It was strange. I'd never seen it before, but we're here. We're ready to talk about both episodes, episode 3 and episode 4.
Yep.
I'm going to retroactively speculate on episode 4 when we talk about episode 3, and I'm going to be right. No, we'll figure out a way to navigate that. But man, let's just start with some general overall impressions from you, dude. What are your thoughts as the show? We're halfway through now. Yeah. What did you think about episodes 3 and 4? Because 1 and 2, we were feeling it, right? It's been so long, but we were feeling it. What are you feeling now?
I haven't stopped feeling it. I mean, last week was great. This week was really good too. I think I enjoyed this week's episode more.
It was real good,
than last. I don't know. This show keeps it feels like such a tease. Like you feel like you're about to get something crazy, and then the episode's over. Which I think is a good thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a sec. The feeling I'm getting watching the show is like every episode so far I've gone, oh, that's not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And then I always had this thing of like, well, wait a minute, what's about to happen? Mm-hmm. And then it's over.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that seems to be just the way of it. I like it. It keeps me hooked. I'm very engaged with where the show is going, and I do feel satisfied watching it week to week. Mm-hmm. It's not like I don't know, there's been some conjecture over the years of not just Star Wars but various TV shows, this idea of like, okay, I think maybe when I've got it all and I can just binge it, I'll like it more. I'm enjoying this experience. Like, it's really nice every week coming in and getting a little something. Yeah, I'm still loving the show. I think I like it even more now than I did when we potted about it last.
Yeah, I think so too. It's got this like mysterious element to it.
Yeah.
That really keeps you so focused and engaged of wondering what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
I mean, we watch plenty of stuff all the time that's predictable or we kind of know where things are going, but with this show, like, it seems like there's something hiding around every corner to like kind of jump out at you.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like piqued my interest a lot. I feel like, teased is the perfect word for it because every episode I'm like, oh, I think we're about to get. It's not like you're not being satisfied. Right. That's yeah. It's not like, oh, it was about to get good and then it didn't get good. It's like really good. And then you think you're piecing this puzzle together, like as you watch, and it's satisfying because every episode something will happen. Oh, okay, that's where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never enough to allow you to kind of go ahead and foresee how everything is going to play out.
It feels like every time something happens, it's like, well, that was not on my bingo card. Like I didn't expect in episode 3 to go to some planet and find this owl who is going to find coordinates to a lost planet by doing whatever it was she did. And then these kids are going to be shooting at X-Wings
Yep.
Like, no. I didn't expect then for them to end up on some mysterious, almost like clone planet of At-Aten, where there's these kid soldiers running around and people are stealing Eopes from each other. Like, it's like, what? How? I love it. I mean, that's what I love.
Eopes weren't on my bingo card, and neither were repurposed droid tanks.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. And it feels like that's just the name of the game with this show. Is it's just, you know me, I'm a sucker for mystery. All y'all hate on Attack of the Clones, but I love it because I love a good mystery. Same with the Acolyte. I mean, it was the same thing. It's just like, ooh, the mystery. I'm just so intrigued by it. And Skeleton Crew is doing a great job with it. Besides the mystery, anything else overarching that you're enjoying about the show? And then we'll get into, like, I guess each episode individually as best we can. You know, I'm sure the lines will blur a little bit.
I would say I'm enjoying how distant it feels from Star Wars.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Unpack that.
Not like a I'm relieved they're not messing up any of the Star Wars I like, but I'm just enjoying how different it feels. The whole show feels completely different. You almost have to like remind yourself you're watching a Star Wars show.
I get what you're Yeah, I get what you're meaning there. It's just got it's very fresh.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very fresh take. It doesn't feel out of place, I wouldn't say.
No.
Like, I was telling someone this the other day as we were talking about it, you know, talking about Star Wars in real life. Try it if you haven't. And one thing I was saying was that it feels like it's all very believable
in
the sense of, like, when you see the previews or when you watch the trailer and you see this Earth-like Star Wars planet.
Yeah.
And you're like, how is it like that? Like, what the story makes it make sense. Like, it absolutely makes sense why At-Aten is the way At-Aten is. And it is odd. Like, that's something I like about it, is it is odd that At-Aten is that way. But there's a reason for it. And it feels like that is something the show is doing in a very interesting way. Is like, it is different, but it makes sense as to why. In fact, I would say it makes perfect sense as to why it's different. And that's part of the mystery. Why is that? And that we still don't really know. We'll speculate, of course, because that's what we're going to do. But what were you about to say?
I was just going to say there's something so satisfying but also unsettling about like a perfect utopian society.
Right.
So I'm immediately drawn in when it's something that seems way too good to be true.
Right.
When everything seems too perfect, there's too much peace, everybody's yards are the same.
Yeah.
It's like that eyes wide shut, like they're not telling us something. I'm always going to be locked in from the very beginning if a story goes that way.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, we'll talk about that maybe a little bit more in episode 4 as we go through. So let's jump back for a moment to episode 3. Let's see. I think we got all the kids' names. I think I know them. I mean, we got them right in the first episode. I feel like that's something about the show is like, for some reason, like all the names are sticking, man. Like the names of the planets, the names of the characters.
You just cursed me.
What do you mean? Now you're gonna forget all the names? I got you.
5 minutes from now, I'm gonna be like, and it's with the one with the what's her name?
Jude Law.
Yeah.
So this third episode begins with them breaking out. You know, he's using the Force. I like that. You know, on one hand, you have Jod Nawud using. I always forget his alias though. Captain. Is it Captain Silvo? Yeah. What's his first name? His name.
I didn't catch that.
I feel like they were saying that I read somewhere that whatever his name is, the alias he's using, that character appeared in like Star Wars issue 7 of one of the Marvel runs.
Oh wow.
And so I haven't gone back and looked, but apparently the character looks nothing like him. It's not him.
Yeah.
He's
just
clearly lifted
name.
this alias. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was cool.
What do they call? What else are they calling him now? Cowboy Jack or?
I don't know.
Wasn't it the wolf? or not the wolf, the owl character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she called him something different too.
Yeah.
Crimson Jack or something like
something
like that. Or maybe maybe that's the name that I'm talking about. So he's got all these different names. He's got all these different aliases. He's definitely on the run from something. Maybe we still don't know. I mean, we speculate, but either way, I like that they showed him. He's using the Force. Like, it's not a trick. Like, we're pretty sure about this now. I don't think that he could be manipulating all these things without us being able to tell that he's using this or that, magnets, whatever. I also like that as they were escaping, as he was sort of detecting people who were running about, that KB was able to detect that droid.
Yeah.
So just them sort of coming together in order to, I think that's going to be important as the show goes on, because, you know, Jod and the kids are still very much butting heads. I think they're only going to finally come to whatever sort of resolution to their journey that they're going to find is when they come together. It feels like that's what's going to happen. And so I don't know, man, I really like the way that they got out of it. And then him having to go back for SM-33 was fun. I'm glad SM-33 is alive.
Glad. I'm going to say that's my favorite character out of this whole show.
Even after episode 4?
Yep. Even more so.
Oh God, Cameron. So we move from there. I loved the whole sequence of them trying to escape. I felt like the action was so well done.
Yep.
And that scene with Brutus, where he's just, you know, should we go get him, Captain? He's like, put a bounty on their heads. It's just the way his like anger just emanated.
Yep.
It was so well done. I didn't expect for, you know, a Wolfman to be such an interesting and intriguing character, but I'm really into that character.
Yeah.
I really like him a lot.
My favorite part about that whole scene was when they jumped to hyperspace and you watch those cables just swing back and just decimate the whole bay.
And the way that it landed right in front of him, but Brutus didn't move. Like, I was just like, oh so man, pissed. I really like this guy a lot. They've done such a great job writing this character. While we're mentioning writing, you know, both of these episodes we're talking about were written by Christopher Ford as well as John Watts. And this episode was directed by David Lowery, who directed the second episode. The fourth episode, we'll just go ahead and get it all out of the way, was directed by the Daniels. But yeah, I love that scene that you're talking about. It was cool. Let me throw this at you. Thoughts on traveling through hyperspace? I feel like we got so many like shots of like the blue light while they're sleeping, while they're talking. What did you think about the hyperspace shots?
I loved them. I always like seeing shots of like a cockpit just kind of illuminated by the blue lights from hyperspace. It felt like they were traveling through hyperspace for a long, long time.
It did feel like it was a while.
Yeah.
It did feel like it was a while. And I feel like Star Wars has always been very... I don't want to say
inconsistent.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's
about
fair.
that. Like you just don't know. Like sometimes, you know, if I'm playing Jedi Fallen Order, I get from one planet to the next in like 30 seconds.
Well, but, I think about the logistics of like how fast you're actually traveling per minute. And then how many minutes we're watching a scene of you in hyperspace, and then how truly far away you just got from everything else.
And then there's the idea of the lanes too, because it's not like it's just a straight shot all the time, right?
Right.
And so there's that to add on top of it. So I don't know. I don't really think too much about time spent in hyperspace because it always feels like it's, you know, this way or that. But it did seem like they were in there for a while. But I appreciated all those scenes and you know, him going in there and KB being awake. She's clearly like, you know, got one eye on Jod at all times. Then we move to this planet where, again, Crimson Jack, I think that was his name. So we got Captain Silvo, Crimson Jack, and is this all the same person? Like, those are all his aliases?
I guess, yeah.
I don't know why I'm having a hard time keeping up with all of those. I just know Jod. But we meet this owl-like character. Dude, she looked great. That's the shots in that scene with the whole thing kind of like moving around. It was wild, man.
Yeah, it felt very Harry Potter.
Very Harry Potter. That's how I felt too.
You felt okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to know.
Are you a Harry Potter fan?
I've seen them all once or maybe twice. They're okay. I'm not a big.
I like Harry Potter.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it. I didn't grow up on Harry Potter, so I don't have a real connection to it.
Yeah, same.
Like I do Star Wars. But they're good.
I was like, I remember I just graduated high school, and maybe I think it was the 6th movie was coming out, and my best friend's now wife, they were dating at the time, I think. She was like, "You haven't seen Harry Potter?" And I was like, "No." She's like, "Well, we're gonna watch all of them, and then you're gonna come watch the 6th one in the movie theater." And so we did.
Dang.
And I was like, they were cool. I liked them. There was one in particular. Maybe it's it's whatever. I think it's the 3rd one. It's the one where they go back in time. Like there's some time travel, and it's just done really well. I really like it. So there's a couple of them that I really enjoy. I like how they get darker and darker as it goes on. They do.
That's one thing that I was surprised by was how dark those movies got.
Yeah. So I definitely got some Harry Potter vibes.
Yeah.
I really appreciated just a lot of the shots in the 3rd episode. Like there's the one where they're walking in the single file line. There's a couple of just shots that feel so 80s, like such a like a good, and that's one thing the show just keeps having is just these amazing feel good moments. Like it feels like a good show to watch. And it is interesting and it is mysterious and it's intriguing, but it just at the end of the day just kind of feels nice. And it's kind of it's refreshing to watch Star Wars that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And there's definitely like we talked about it last time. I mean, I think they're laying it on pretty thick, this idea of those who are adventurous and creative and want to go off and do things versus those who are, stuck in the system and, they're literally almost like they're turning into droids themselves. There was also I don't want to miss the part, the 3rd episode opened up with this droid walking from, I guess, the headquarters. What do they call him? It's not the magistrate. What do they call him? The supervisor?
The supervisor's tower, or
something like that. I can't remember what exactly. Well, let's call him the supervisor for now. But walk from that area to, I guess, the suburbs where they live, and they're all worried sick, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's Fern's mom mentions that she used to go off and run off and the security droids would always bring them back or whatever. And so I guess we know where Fern sort of gets it from.
Her rebellious spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's a thing. But one thing that I wanted to mention is she requested an audience with the supervisor. Again, whatever it was called. I think that's what it is. Maybe it's the grand supervisor, something like that.
It's going to bug me.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up while we talk about it. But, or are you going to look it up?
Yeah.
All right, you look it up. As she was requesting the audience, I started thinking about it, and I'm not convinced it's a human being.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced it's a human. I almost feel like the droids are running everything.
Oh, interesting.
It kind of feels like that to me.
Uh-huh.
It feels like a society that has really like lost its humanity, for lack of a better word. I know there's species that aren't humans, but that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if that theory holds any weight with you, that maybe that's what's happening, that perhaps the supervisor, whatever it is, I don't know if you found it or not. If you haven't, it's not a big deal. I don't even know what to Google to find that out. But thoughts about that? Do you think that could be it? Could it be that this is all being run by the droids and that there's no humans involved at all?
I had not thought about that until you mentioned it, but that would be a really good spin to put on this show. To think like, okay, these people are living in like this perfect utopia.
Yeah.
These droids help them keep things in order and help keep people safe and everything. But no one can go up in the tower or anything. So nobody really knows who's running the show.
Right.
So it makes sense for them to like build it up to this big crescendo of when the big reveal is going to happen, and then boom, there's like a protocol droid up there just like running the whole thing.
And if that happens, and maybe we're,
Yeah, I was about to say.
Always in motion is the future. Meditate on this. I will.
All right, I've been meditating for the last 3 seconds. I can see that. I can see that. Like, we get to the end of this thing. These people, they want their kids. They, rush in and then come to find out, yeah, it's all programming. Like all the programming that they've been doing, that they've been learning since they were born, is to keep this thing going. It's like this circle. Yeah. It's like we're literally living, and there's all this stress just to keep this system going. Mm-hmm. And this system isn't serving any of us, and it feels like that's kind of what the show is getting at. And, in that way, sort of this rebellious, adventurous spirit of these kids is what ultimately unlocks that. Yeah. So I can't help but feel like that's gotta be. I mean, it's where it seems to be headed to me.
I think so too. It is supervisor, by the way. I did finally find it.
Is it just the supervisor? Is that
Office of the supervisor.
Office of the supervisor.
I mean, the Troik referred to it in the 4th episode as the fallen tower, or the big spire that they wound up in at the end. Yeah,
which is where
the office of the supervisor is.
Oh, you know what I wonder?
What?
Okay, good point. Let's put a pin in that for a sec. Is there anything else in episode 3 that we should? Let's talk about the fight scene with the X-wings.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
That was great.
I loved it. I love the fact that it's like we're shooting at X-wings. Mm-hmm. Okay, again, like, wasn't on my bingo card.
Yeah,
I really liked just the energy of these kids running into the cockpit. Like, it was cool to see that Fern was like, all right. And Wim was more of this excited to be doing it. Like, he's shooting before he's even turned around. Like, it just captured. And I feel like that's something this show does well with all the characters. It's constantly, in every single little way, giving you their personality. Mm-hmm. And everything that they do, you get a little bit more of their personality shown. And like, I feel like after 4 episodes, I know these characters so well.
Yeah.
I know, we'll talk about Fern a little bit in the next episode, because that little actress, she killed it. Like, I know their insecurities. I know their, how are they doing this good? I mean, it's really great. Like, the writing is insane. The directing's great. The editing is fantastic, particularly in the 4th episode. We'll talk about that. But I just love that. I love the whole, the tension of them doing that. Neil flying the ship, KB programming the hyper. It just all felt so
ragtag.
They're definitely a skeleton crew. Like, they're making it happen, but just the way that all their little personalities were shown in that, I just loved it, man. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that they didn't actually kill an X-Wing pilot. That would have been a little strange because they don't know what the New Republic is. Mm-hmm. I think that Jod is definitely manipulating them a little bit there, but I think that also maybe there's a piece of Jod that knows that no one's gonna help these kids find their way home.
Yeah,
I think nobody cares about it more than Jod, because, like he said at the end of that episode, I'm like you. I'm lost. I don't have anyone. So I don't know. That was great. Getting into the 4th episode.
Yeah,
dude, what was the thread that I was stepping into there?
Of the office of the secretary versus the fallen tower.
I wonder if the fallen tower thing, we'll jump to the end real fast and circle back to this theory or just this idea, question, whatever. I wonder if the fallen tower, I know that obviously SM-33 ripped the coordinates. That's obvious. His captain was trying to hide whatever the treasure in that Aten was.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if maybe the reason why there was so much destruction, why that tower was taken down, could there have been a revolt? Might all of the At planets, might they all have been set up like this? Set up with these droids who are effectively running the show, and over the millennia, through, I don't know, maybe like travel to other planets, they've grown tired of this system of being run by droids, and so they overthrew the droid overlords.
Yeah.
Whereas in At-Aten, there's no travel, so there's no. I don't know. Maybe it was just able to keep going there, but
I mean, they weren't. They were not utilizing droids in any way in that camp.
That's interesting. Let's think about that for a second. Yeah,
you would
there were
think
no
there would
droids,
be droids
right?
left over. Yeah, none.
Good catch. Okay, so maybe there's something to that. Just this idea of perhaps the reason why everything was so. Yeah, so destroyed, and so it was because maybe there was a revolt.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's interesting to note. So we get to. Do you remember the name of this new planet? Akin or something?
Akin, yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
Talk to me. What were your overall thoughts of this fourth episode?
I knew from the very beginning that it was too good to be true for them to be at Aten.
Oh, okay.
Because they're like, oh, we've arrived. And they touched down on the planet. And I was like, at first I thought that maybe it was just an annexed part of Aten that they were going to land in. They were going to have to walk through like a no man's land type thing.
Yeah.
And then when they encountered the Troik and she said, what flag do you fly? I was like, oh yeah, this isn't it. And then of course we get that like post-apocalyptic, like suburbs but overrun type thing. I knew that something was not quite right. I just couldn't really put my finger on it.
Yeah, it took me a sec, I guess. I don't know. I guess I was kind of like, oh, okay, we're in Aten.
Yeah. It
wasn't until the kids started really questioning it that I began to pick up like, oh, yeah, it's definitely not Aten. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I just didn't know what to think.
Yeah.
I just kind of was thinking like maybe, like you said, like maybe it's another side of the planet or something. I don't know. But
either that or the coordinates were completely wrong, and it just landed them at some other random planet. I mean, it was close. So my question is like, how were those the coordinates that she came upon?
Well, I think that it's because maybe all of those planets were a part of something about it. It's a really, I don't know, man. That's a good question. I hadn't really considered that. Something about it makes it seem like all of those planets are connected in some way.
Or were, yeah.
Or were. Whether they were all... The only thing I think of, though, is like, were they all, like, created? Like, that's another thing. It's like, I'm curious, like, because she said whenever now I got to go back and watch the end of the third episode. Dang it, Cameron. Now you got me thinking about all kinds of other stuff.
Sorry.
When they found the coordinates, they were looking for. Now I'm trying to remember. It's hard to
She
gather.
asked them to describe the terrain or describe the planet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they began to look, but I feel like this other planet at Akron also, is that what it's called?
I think so.
Whatever it's called. I feel like it also had to be in some way a hidden planet. Or else when she pulled up those coordinates, she would have been like, oh no, this is actually at whatever.
Oh yeah, they're definitely associated in this like secret planet society type thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so all of the planets are secrets, but only At-Aten's coordinates have been obscured. At least in this one spot. See, this is what I'm thinking. Okay, if there are 8 planets, I think there were 8, maybe there were 6, something like that, because they were going around. Oh, this is at whatever. This is at whatever.
Yeah. They were all connected in some way.
Right. So, did they go to every single planet and get rid of the coordinates for At-Aten?
That's where I thought things were going. I thought when they realized that the At-Aten coordinates were gone there, they were going to say, oh, let's check one of the other pillars for those coordinates, travel to that one.
Right.
And see, because I don't know, did SM-33 and his captain go to each of the 7?
That's my question.
And wipe the coordinates?
I don't know. Perhaps. I don't know. I guess
that's where I figured they were going. When they realized the At-Aten coordinates were gone, I thought it was going to be, oh, okay, cool. We'll go to one of these other planets. Mm-hmm. They're likely to have the same pillars that are here, and maybe SM-33 and his captain didn't make it to all of them.
Cameron, maybe you can help me out here. I'm trying to remember exactly how the episode ended. I did a second rewatch this morning, but as I explained to you before we started recording, they were literally replacing the power line outside my house. I was one of 3 people affected by the power outage, and so I lost power 5 minutes before the end. How exactly did it end? I mean, I remember obviously SM-33 went wild on these kids.
Yep.
Neil passed out, which was really fun. I like that. Did they give any inclination to what they were going to try next? I don't. It keeps ending kind of suddenly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Then we'll circle back to this idea. There's a lot of other stuff to talk about in the episode. I do want to mention the editing. Dude, the wipes were great.
Oh, yeah.
The wipes are so good. Mm-hmm. It's like the best Star Wars wipes I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
They seem to kind of move with the movement of what's happening on camera. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very much a fan of it. And I just keep noticing just the way things are moving in terms of the edit. It feels really good. Like every scene feels like right whenever it's maybe starting to be a little slow, they'll bring in some action. Right whenever it's starting to get a bit much, they'll dial it back. Mm-hmm. It's just very, very well done. The way they're managing just the sort
pacing.
Of the tempo. The pacing of the show feels excellent.
Yeah.
I'm really loving that. All right, so let's talk about some other stuff. Episode 4. So let's talk about this. Who's the person that they met? This young girl. It was funny when she kept trying to say, what were they called? The Toiks?
The Troik. Yeah, Troik or Toik.
Okay, it was really fun whenever just to have her kind of like trying to say what her name was, and they were like, what? And, they had to go back and forth, and she finally takes the helmet off. It's like, thank God.
Yeah.
Because I definitely was having a hard time myself.
With an H, didn't it?
Hanya?
Hanya? Yeah, that sounds right.
That looks like the name on here is Hanya.
She looked to me like when she first took the helmet off, I thought it was the same actress that played, I can't remember what her name is, but the leader of Enfys Nest in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. She did have an Enfys Nest type.
Or not sequel trilogy. That was Solo.
Solo, yeah. But I know what you mean. I had a similar vibe. I think just like taking the mask off, being this warrior, but actually being a young girl underneath the mask. It kind of had that similar sort of vibe. I really liked the way they managed this warring thing that was happening, and the way that we saw this other faction. And there was this, to me at least, as I was watching the episode, there was definitely this feeling of like they could be getting into some stuff.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they could be getting into some stuff. It just never happened.
Yeah.
And I like that. It didn't feel like there's I think it was all right. The latest time I can remember it happening, this happens from time to time, was season 2 of House of the Dragon, where it's like, all right, there's going to be a war. There's going to be a war. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a war. Here it comes. It's coming. All right. That was the finale. All right. Like that's, there are other things I enjoy about the show, but that's kind of something that people complained about with the last season of House of the Dragon. Mm-hmm. And what I would say is I don't feel that way about this. It was interesting how the whole time I expected, they're going into the fog at the end and they're like shaking in their boots, and I'm thinking, here it comes.
Yeah, here comes the battle.
But it never came.
Yeah.
Yet I didn't feel like, oh man, where was the big battle that I was promised? Like somehow it was all good.
There was so much tension that you didn't need. It was a relief to not have to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're looking at Neil, you're like, holy cow, here we go. Like you're bracing yourself. Here comes a battle, and then there's not one. You're like, oh, you're so much more focused on the fact that it was relieving that there wasn't one than the fact that you were amping yourself up for one and didn't get it.
That's a great point. I didn't think about the fact that the tension and then the relief came not from the thing being satisfied, meaning you've been told that there's this battle coming, but instead it's the relief of not having to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So I like that. That's some good insight. I appreciate that. This young girl and Neil kind of have this moment. What'd you think about that?
I thought it was really I thought it was very sweet.
Yeah, it was real nice, just their back and forth. You know, him talking about, and maybe this is another thing, is the idea of he mentioned that they don't fight where he's from.
Yeah.
There's no struggle.
Yep. It's just peace all the time.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Good point. And I do think that, like, again, to take a moment to double down on this idea of like adventure versus just kind of going along with the thing. I feel like the adventure is in a lot of ways this idea of being creative, like having fun making things, making podcasts, making music, making whatever. And I feel like the thing is, like, sometimes there is struggle when you're making stuff. And so, like, on one hand, there's not really a struggle to come home and to order some Uber Eats and to sit down and binge watch Netflix for 4 hours and go to bed.
Yeah.
There's no struggle there, you know? We've had Pro Tools crash twice in the 40 minutes that we've been talking so far, you know? You know, there's struggle when you're making stuff.
Well, and it reminds me of in the first episode when Neil and Wim are talking about, you know, Wim's all excited about, don't you want to see adventure? Don't you want lightsabers? And there's that long pause and he goes, I'm
like
good.
What?
Yeah, like what? Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
And then, but, you know, he does eventually at some point go, whatever.
It's so innocent. It's so like, he's not actively fighting against anything. He's just like, I can't even comprehend what you're talking about outside of the peace that I live in.
Yeah. And I think that idea of like, yeah, maybe it's the battle is not going back and forth with this other clan and stealing each other's stuff and just this constant cycle of vengeance, essentially. That's not good either, but it does seem like there is a balance to be found in between, like, this like utopian peace and this, you know, desolate wasteland that's marred by war and fighting for generations. Like, yeah, there's neither are ideal, I guess. It does benefit us to have some sense of struggle, like when you work hard for something and then you see the results of it, like that means something, and it's only through the struggle that I guess that happens. Unfortunately, like, in some way, like, it'd be nice if we just, let me try this. It worked. Amazing. It always works. But there is something about, like, this, like, having to go up against something and rub up against it to struggle, to fight, and then to break through. Yeah. But I guess, you know, again, to bring it back to the other side of, but you don't want to do that all the time. Like, there should be some moments of peace and some serenity, I guess. So it's just kind of an interesting little thing that's happening there. Yeah. What else stuck out to you in episode 4? What were some things that you can think of?
I enjoyed the development of Neil in particular. I would say he's a close second favorite character to SM33. But just to see him as a kid be so confident in what he believed in. Yeah. Even though it was so vastly different than, like, he's now in the den of a warring tribe. Yeah. And he's still just sticking to his guns of, like, I don't know, wouldn't it be better if we just, like, talked it out and got along instead? Yeah. So I liked that. I liked obviously the struggle at the end, the battle with SM33, where all that tension kind of, like, broke loose. Yeah. Those are my two favorite things about this episode were the Neil off to his own development arc type thing, and then the ending of it. Those are my top picks.
You mentioned Neil, him and that little actress. They had, you know, it was really great, the back and forth, and it felt to me as though this was like a really great performance by the little kid voicing Neil. I don't know if he's doing the motion capture as well, or if there's someone else doing motion capture, but it's just a great delivery. And there was a moment too, whatever's happening with the Neil character in terms of the special effects, there was a moment where the camera shifted when they were talking. They were just having that conversation that we're talking about, where you saw his mouth move underneath his trunk.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was real subtle. It was like 1 or 2 shots like that. And I was just like, oh, I just love that they showed that. Like,
yeah.
They didn't have to show that, but the fact that they're sitting there and talking for a couple of minutes, like, yeah, you should show that. I'm glad that they did. There was also like a couple other shout outs with Neil. I think in the 3rd episode, you heard him snoring with his little trunk. And then again, when they were walking outside of this new planet, he was like, hey, I had like allergies or something, and his trunk's just always making these funny sounds, and I bet it gets him into trouble at some point. That's a little speculation. I feel like it could get him in trouble. The other standout performance in this episode was Fern. Like that little actress. Dude.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
When she broke down towards the end of the episode, I thought it was great. This whole like, you should have been the captain. Like,
it was very honest.
Yeah, her being like, I don't know what I'm doing. That's how it feels. I feel that way in my life a lot as I, chase various creative things. Sometimes just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. When you really do go on that adventure, that journey, it's so I don't know. It's there's no map. There's no map.
She said something like, you think that you can say that I'm amazing and I'll have the answers, but sometimes that's just not enough.
Right.
Like you want to encourage somebody and say, Tyler, you've got it together, man. Like don't stress out. Like you've got this under control. Yeah. But you in your brain, you're like, no, I'm obviously freaking out because I don't have it under control. You saying that doesn't like change the fact. So it was just very...
Wait, are we still talking about Star Wars or is this real life?
It was just very humanizing because I find myself in those positions too. Like, I feel like I need... If I just had the right encouragement, if I just had the right like support, like it would like boost me to have the answers. But sometimes you're in such a like place of distraughtness that... It doesn't matter. Like, thank you. I'm so glad you think I'm smart. I'm so glad you think I'm amazing. I'm so glad you think I have the answers together, but I don't. And that's it.
Yeah, but I do think maybe it's the optimist in me coming out. I think that they're right. I think that Wim was right. I think that Fern will figure it out.
No, I 100% agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying I think I'll figure it out.
The sentiment... The sentiment in that moment is like, okay, cool, great. Thank you for the compliments, but what does that do for the dilemma that we're in right now?
Right.
But I mean, you come around and that kind of like positive reinforcement, that kind of encouragement, like will eventually bring you to the point where you can make a decision confidently thinking people do support me.
Yeah,
know what I'm
and maybe
doing.
that shortens the time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's even all it's for. Is in the moment you're still like, no. Like Fern's still like, nah, you should have been the captain. Like, but ultimately, I'm sure that sort of chit chat will come back around and help her make the decision that she needs to make. We'll go ahead. We mentioned it earlier off air that these episodes are so they don't really feel like they need to be dissected in the way that a lot of the other Star Wars shows do. I wonder how long next week's episode is going to be if we're just doing one episode because it feels like maybe we actually will have to skip next week because it's Christmas, so maybe we will do 5 and 6. Just be on the lookout on the feed. Of course, when we're ready and we record it, it'll show up. But these episodes do feel like they're pretty like surface level. I mean, we could sit here and try to speculate and say, oh, this reminds me of that, but for the most part, I mean, I don't know. We've really talked about most of the things that I can think to talk about. If you're listening out there and you want to send in a message, feel free. I'm remembering right now in this moment that Geiger did send a message in after the first and second episode, but it's been so long and we didn't record a third that it just slipped my mind. Geiger, apologies. We'll have to get you to send in a new message. Anybody can. You can just message it over to starwarsafterparty@gmail.com. If you just make a voice memo on your phone, feel free. I know Geiger wasn't liking the show.
No way.
He wasn't liking the show.
It's a good cliffhanger for next week.
Yeah, so maybe he can write us in and let us know if he's enjoying it more, or call in, whatever.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Gager, you out there, man? Are you okay, man? You like Star Wars? No, he loves Star Wars, of course. But yeah, I mean, that's about it. I feel like I had a thought in terms of where maybe this thing could go, but I'm struggling to remember what it was. There's just, again, to me, this is one of those really great feel-good Star Wars things we talk about, and it does feel like something that you can watch with the fam.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to maybe sitting down with my nephew or something and throwing it on. I think he would enjoy it. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens next week. Hope you guys have a good Christmas, because, I mean, I guess it is. What is today? I always forget what year we're in, much less what day we're in.
16th.
18th. We're 1 week away from Christmas, so
yeah.
Either way, I don't think you'll hear from us before, so Merry Christmas to everybody out there.
Yeah.
There is a good chance that we do not pod on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. I know I'm going out of town after, so we probably will do 5 and 6 together. We'll make it happen. But yeah, we're just enjoying it, and I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Cameron, you got anything else?
Nope, I'm loving it.
All right, we'll slam the ship. We will be back. We will be talking about Skeleton Crew. We will be talking about Star Wars. We will be having a good time. We will be watching it next week. Don't worry, when Christmas rolls around, we've already seen episode 5. What about you? Cameron, you're going to watch it before Christmas, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Comes out on Christmas Eve. That's going to be nice. What a nice little vibe. I'm going to be
sitting up waiting for Santa to come down the chimney. I got to have something to keep me awake.
Yeah, you got a little eggnog. Maybe you put a little something in it. I don't know. I don't know how you do Christmas. I'm going to probably be sitting there with if I have my way, I'll have a nice little chocolate electrolyte mix. That's kind of the way I like to party these days. You know, relaxing the muscles. I've been running a little bit. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But we will be back. We look forward to it. It's going to be a good time. Until then, Tyler out.
Cameron out.
This party's over.